Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the Biomanufacturing and Cell and Gene Therapy meeting online. My name is Lewis Mike. I'm the CEO and founder of Preventer International, for those who missed the initial introduction this morning. For those who have stayed on with us, thank you very much. And we go on to part 2 of this online experience. And without further ado, I would like to introduce Tomaz Resetic. He's the CTO and owner of Track. I'll pass it on to you, Tomaz.
Thank you, Luis. I will just share my screen. Yes, good afternoon, everyone, from my side as well. It happens that I'm, after BS operations this morning, a second speaker from Slovenia. It is 7:30 here in Slovenia, and I should be doing my evening walk, but I guess I will do this later tonight. So anyway, it is a privilege for me to be the speaker on this event, and I hope the topic will be interesting enough for you to take some ideas back to your working environment. So my name is Tomaz Resetic, and I'm CTO at automation company Track. So our agenda today will be, I will talk about benefits and some challenges and some solutions for modular automation concepts and opportunities, let's say, that implementing modular automation in real life in order to enjoy all the benefits of this. We'll first refresh our minds about modular automation benefits, and then I will discuss where we currently are, what standards exist, and how wide implementations in the industry. I will then move a little bit to more a realistic world, the real needs of the industry, and finally, how these needs can be fulfilled with innovative and automation approach. So first, a little bit about our company. Track stands for Totally Rational Automation Concepts. We are solution providers for pharmaceutical and biopharmaceutical and chemical industry. And we are very proud of our successful project track record and years of experience that we have behind us. We are at Track constantly searching for innovative solutions for our partners. And that's what I will present also today, what was discovered, let's say, in our journey to a better world and better automation. So we are considering ourselves as intelligent automation company, which means that we provide solutions which orchestrate users, tasks, systems, and robots, depending, of course, on the particular business needs. We have established long-term, trustful, and partnership with our customers, and successfully finished many projects around the globe. So our vision is that we want to be the first solution provider in the field of automation and robotics. With that being said, let's move on to the presentation. So this slide is just to quickly summarize some of the most important benefits of modularity. Bioprocesses are becoming more complex than ever. Therefore, the greater effort is required to define and implement and validate automation systems. Modularity plays a big role here because it allows the complex processes to be broken into several smaller independent processing units, each going through its own validation procedure. Product quality is #1 attribute. Modular automation helps to mitigate risks associated with biomanufacturing, like materials variability, operator skills, manual operations, and etc. It has been evident for quite some time now that manufacturing plants must become more flexible, especially with new types of medicines where we see a shift to larger number of different and smaller batches. So sometimes even one batch per patient, as we can see from the latest ATMP drugs and so on. There is also a benefit of modular automation due to the less effort needed to validate production processes based on these modular concepts, because the modules come pre-validated, and putting them together only requires that we do validate or test the integrated setup, but not each module separately time over time. Another advantage is also that failures can be rectified in much less time, as defective modules can be easily and quickly identified, and of course replaced with the spare ones. This not only increases the plant availability and functional safety, modules also enable more flexible, cost-efficient, and intelligent, smart small batch production. I didn't also mention one very important quality attribute. This is related to data integrity, which starts at the module level. Also, the combination of single-use technologies and modularity is driving the next generation of flexible solutions. Focus is on small-scale operations, let's say under 2,000 liters, and for a wide range of product types, including advanced therapeutic medicinal products. Modular automation is not only applicable in manufacturing processes, but also in to other stages in pharmaceutical and drug development, like critical clinical trials and development stages. This is particularly true for ATMPs, where more or less, from our experience, the same equipment is used for development and for regular production. Only that in the regular production we have a larger number of equipment due to capacity requirements. So on this slide, we just want to show that it's not only manufacturing process, but it is also early stages. And we know now, as of today, there are like more than 1,000 products in one of the different clinical phases, and where this modular automation can play also a big role. Another example of applicability of modular automation is preparation, let's say, of analytical samples. Each phase of preparation can be presented, present slide is done by each specific module. Modularity allows the configuration of these modules based on the required steps in sample preparation. Modules are treated like as a small units with clear in and out margins, with or without its own control logic. Flexibility that user gets with this approach is enormous, because particularly important for research and development organizations. Now let's move let's look what is the current status of this modular concept and modular technologies. Adoption of modular automation is still challenging. Manufacturing are seeing suppliers and software developers are facing integration hurdles and regulatory challenges. So there is a lack of industry-wide standardization. Of course, as you might be familiar, there are some initiatives towards standardization of modular systems, like VDE NAMUR 2658, or MTP, we call it shortly. There are some initiatives on BPOG group and some other initiatives. NAMUR, MTP, is, let's say, currently in draft version, and is widely supported by the industry and associations like ISP and Open Group. Some big names like Siemens, ABB, already developed orchestration platforms based on this NAMUR 2658 standard. Some have their own, like Cytiva, Flex Factory, and so on. But all these solutions are targeted to the new, more or less to the new manufacturing sites and equipment, and are often very complex. But the reality is that there is a lot of legacy equipment on the field, which is still used in production processes and will be continue to be used in the future. So there is still no critical base of modular standardized equipment on the market to allow wide adoption of modular concepts. And this is the real challenge we are facing today. And the challenge is how to bring this modular automation to the real life manufacturing, where there is, as I mentioned, a lot of legacy equipment not built to the modular automation standards. I will talk today about one possible approach how to make this reality happen. Before I do this, I would also like to show the slide where, like about OPC UA, because this is like a backbone, let's put it this way, or it was also named by latest recent ISA magazine as United Nations of Automation, because it provides, it links all these different equipment, different standards into a unified communication layer, and it also provides data security on all levels. So we can say OPC is a framework for industrial interoperability based on data models and can be communicated with virtually any communications methods, including modern industrial protocols. So the actual key for digitalization lies in the meaning and description of the data, and OPC UA provides a framework and standard for information modeling. So that being said, we can conclude that we really want and need modular plants. So I want to share this slide with you to stress how important and will be modular technology in the future. We are seeing an unprecedented explosion of new technologies and digital innovations that can change what we do and how we do it. This includes the way we discover, the way we develop, and the way we manufacture and supply. New technologies are disrupting manufacturing. Traditional ways of making medicine is no longer feasible for these new medicines. So, and of course, with all these new spreads of diseases, pharmaceutical production demands for new medicinal products on a short-term notice. Today is COVID-19, tomorrow it might be a different variation. How flexible is industry to reconfigure its production capabilities and start producing new type of medicine in the shortest possible time? This is a key question. So modular design can play an important role, but is modularity feasible? I would say that for new factories where you plan upfront to build a modular plant, it's feasible. But what about existing setups with a lot of legacy equipment, as I mentioned before? This is a key question. So there is, as I mentioned, enormous amount of legacy equipment, and in most cases, fully operational and standalone equipment with its own user interface and most of the time limited connection capabilities. So the challenge is how to make this legacy equipment modular. And modular means standardized, integratable, and so on. The key word here is decoupling. We have to make physical separation of existing equipment into independent and manageable units called modules. In most cases, there are individual processing equipment, these modules. So take a piece of existing equipment, convert it into a standard module, and use it as a plug to produce concept. Once modules are clearly defined, they can be integrated into a robust and fully compliant process. So at Track, we came with, let's say, an innovative solution how to make this legacy equipment modular. We put together a little hardware and software to create a wrapper around the legacy equipment, which you can see on the screen. This wrapper behaves externally as fully MTP compliant package unit, while internally communicates with original device controller and externally exposes all its properties to external orchestration system. This approach has several advantages. So standardization of user interface, use equipment which is best suitable for the purpose. So it's vendor independence. You don't have to be limited to buy a certain piece of equipment if it doesn't suit your processing needs. And it's flexible and quick production, allows quick production reconfiguration, supports data integrity and quick turnaround time. Sorry, yeah, okay. We can see on this slide a typical cell therapy process where off-the-shelf equipment is first transformed to comply with modular standards before it can be used in manufacturing process. So we see a funnel of different types of equipment which has to be, which is used in a standard, let's say, CAR-T or whatever manufacturing process. And by providing these wrappers around this equipment, we unify interfaces, we simplify user experience, we reduce the necessary level of training for the operators, and so on. Once we have these modules, let's say, properly separated, properly wrapped around this and make them compatible with MTP standard, the only thing we now need is orchestration platform, which allows simple and unified interface to all connected modules. So at this point, I would like to introduce our new product called FMAP, which stands for Flexible Modular Automation Platform. FMAP is a platform which supports modular automation through MTP-based modules description. So it's a key advantage compared to others is that it supports modular and legacy equipment. And it also supports hybrid configurations, so legacy and MTP. Combination of FMAP and our novel concept of FMAP wrapper brings plug to produce concept to reality today. And I will not repeat on this at this point what all the features of FMAP are, but typical that you expect from a orchestration layer like. Now I move to next slide. So on this slide, I just want to explain a few more things about this modular our product and advantages. Each module has, as you can see here, corresponding MTP file, which describes all properties of that module. So visual properties, operational properties, and so on. MTP files are imported into orchestration platform where a repository of available units operations is created. Normally, we can describe each process as a set of interconnected unit operations. Graphical representation of these interconnected unit operations is called normally sequential flowcharts. And you can see one on the right side of this slide. With our platform allows a user to really, on intuitive and simple way, configure sequential, let's say, flowchart of their process by just drag and drop available operations, which are extracted, let's say, from the MTP files visually, drag and drop them on the, let's say, your working dashboard, connect them in a proper way, depends what your process is. Then the only next thing is that you click on each operation, configure parameters, and you're ready to go. So this is very, let's say, intuitive and easy to configure, let's say, your process. And you can save these configurations in the means like a recipe or so on. Also worthwhile mentioning is also that batch or continuous processes are supported with this platform. Here you can see also how during the execution of the process, we provide several types of dashboards for the operator. One dashboard is, let's say, called recipe dashboard, where, let's say, each icon on the dashboard represents one particular recipe. In this in CAR-T technology processes, that would be one patient. It's one recipe, and you can quickly get in and out into a recipe to see its status, how in which step it is running, and so on from this dashboard. Another type of visualization is equipment dashboard, where in contrast to recipe, here you see each icon represents a piece of equipment in your working environment, and you can quickly see the status, and you can dig in also deeper to, let's say, manipulate with this piece of equipment on to see, let's say, parameters that it's currently using for its run. On this next slide, I want to show even more, let's say, graphically, what does this mean? Let's say we were recently part of conceptual and basic design of CAR-T manufacturing facility, and we saw what means having a lot of equipment in place. Here is just one example on the slide where you can see that in one room you might have, let's say, just for cell expansion step, which is one step in the complete process, you might have, let's say, 30 single-use bioreactors, and you have maybe 2-3 operators that needs to control and operate all these bioreactors. Of course, these bioreactors are autonomous; they run by itself, but still, they have status. They can, like they can go into alarm or whatever. So it's a challenge. So if the operator doesn't have like good tools for that, it will be difficult, because each bioreactor is one patient, and having this in mind means that it's very difficult. On the right side, you can see how many sequential flowchart diagrams operator has to follow at certain time. Okay, I will with this I will summarize. So today I talked about quickly about benefits of modular technologies and the current challenges for wider adoption within manufacturing industry. I also shared with you an innovative solution, how to make legacy equipment, which is here and will stay here for some time, how to make this equipment modular and used in flexible configurations. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I believe slides will be available for the audience also after the event. Thank you so much, and I'm available for any questions in next few minutes if you might have them. Thank you.
Thank you, Tomaz. Really appreciate that. There's a couple of questions in the chat, so if you don't mind, I think we might have time for just a couple. The first one is, Tomaz, how will relationships change between automation vendors and end users?
A relationship, of course, traditionally this relationship has to be very close, and with very close cooperation. But with modular automation, it might be, let's say, a little less coupling needed, because manufacturers will be able, with platforms which I introduced today, will be able to configure processes themselves, and also being less, let's say, dependent on the vendors. So that's my view how that will develop in the future.
Great, and I think this is a follow-on question to, will this raise questions about who owns each module?
I hope I understand this question correctly. The modules, I mean, once they are at the manufacturer's site, it's clear who owns them. And the modules, but if the question was addressed from the, let's say, from the running perspective, the modules are, once they are allocated, they are owned by particular process or particular platform that it's currently using them and run them. So allocation here is very important on the technical level. And once modules are not used anymore, they can be disconnected and they can be used or either on somewhere on another, let's say, a connection point somewhere else in another configuration, or can be set or for the next use.
Great. And lastly, Tomaz, just to finalize, has this process been tested anywhere yet?
That's a good question. Not yet, because we are at the late stage of development. This is an idea that evolved, let's say, for last year and a half, and we are now finalizing it. So we plan to have first implementation later this year.
Great. Perfect, Tomaz. This was the questions in the chat. However, Tomaz, you're online and you're also on Umbrella for the networking, and you have your contact details here as well. So if anybody has any further questions, Tomaz is online all day today and will be for the following next 2 weeks, where Umbrella is still going to be open for anyone that wants to network and still want to communicate. Otherwise, more than happy to connect with Tomaz. As you can see, his email here and his phone number there. But Tomaz, thank you very much. Really appreciated. Very engaging. And just so we've got time to switch on to the next roundtable discussions, we will finalize this keynote presentation. So thank you, Tomaz.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care and see you all on the next roundtables. Bye-bye.
Okay, see you.